Welcome to Life Hacks Beyond Convention with Dee and Sonya.
Excuse me, the first computer that we got, I think, was back in the days of, it was before, VIC-20.
Okay.
VIC-20, then a Commodore 64.
Yep. Mm.
And then I remember upgrading to the Commodore 128. We just thought that was so amazing. But I remember this first little computer thing that we had, and you had to use the cassette tape. And so one of the games that we had, you put the cassette tape in, you have to let the cassette tape run all the way through so that the data got into the computer memory, and then you could play it.
and then it immediately erases the data memory once you turn it off.
Must have erased it when you switched it off or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't quite remember.
Yeah.
It's too long ago, but I do remember it was called Rat Race. It was my favourite game. And I just thought it was amazing.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, we would just, because you knew what you had to do, and that's even with dial-up internet.
Yes.
Years and years later.
Oh, God.
You just knew that you would think, I want to play that game. Oh, well, I need to allow 20 minutes for it to get the information to the computer. So you'd go and you'd turn your cassette player on, and you go off and do something, come back and play the game.
Yeah.
And that was, and I can remember the same with dial-up. Did you ever come across a dial-up thing called Global Freeway?
No.
So back in the day, now what year would have this been? It must have been the early 90s.
Yeah.
And there was this program out there. I don't know how they made money, but it was Global Freeway, and if you hooked into that, you got free internet, and it was all just dial-up internet.
Yeah.
So I used that for about 3 or 4 years before that stopped.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I can remember you'd want things.
Yeah.
So, and the first time I remember, here's the other thing I remember is when I first wanted to do homeschooling, I went and did a bit of a search. And of course, there's mainly only forums and that back then.
Yes.
But I could only find about 4 websites that had anything about homeschooling. So I went around and saw someone who was more IT than me to make sure I was doing the right thing. It's like, well, do I got to do anything else to search? And it's like, he's having a look. Nah, that's all I could find too.
Wow.
So 4 websites.
Wow.
And within only 2 or 3 years, I remember, within 2 or 3 years of that, probably, or maybe 3 or 4, you'd start to get hundreds, and now, of course, it's millions.
Yes, exactly.
Millions. But going back to the whole waiting thing, I can remember different things that I wanted to do and wait for it to download from the internet, and you'd actually, or upload.
Yes.
Depending which way you were going. So it'd just be like, oh, well, you just know that it was going to take 10, 15, 20 minutes to either download or upload. So you just plan that into your day, don't you?
Yeah.
And it was just normal. It's like, okay, I need to get this down. I'll go and get it going down.
Yeah.
Hope that no one rings in the meantime because that'll cut your connection.
Yep.
And go off and do something else and then come back.
Yeah. Well, we had a not a mainframe, but a large computer network at BHP Engineering, and that was a go turn it on, go make a coffee and have a chat with everyone for 15 minutes, then come back.
And that would have been the printing on those long pieces of paper.
Yes, those miles and miles. I did go. I had a partner who was a computer programmer much earlier than that, so in the late 70s, and he worked for the health company, FSMA or something it was in South Australia, and they had stacks of those cards, those yellow cards, and we went into the computer room, and the room was as big as half of this house, and they had these big things, and discs were like 2 feet across and a foot deep, and you had to and the difference now, so and then by the time I was a mother, it was like whole different ball game. Little floppy disks and.
Well, the floppy disks, like how much data was that? 256 meg or something.
Something like that. Yeah, it was tiny. If that.
Yeah, if that, exactly.
Yes. Oh dear.
I know, yeah, I remember the floppy. Oh, and that's the other thing, you know, when we were talking about the assumptions that we make about the young people, I have the question, why on earth is it that for the save sign? The save icon? It's like, oh, that's a floppy disk. What?
Yeah, what's a floppy disk?
What's a floppy disk? And it's like, oh, okay, well,
yeah.
Floppy disk is.
I saw a thing on, it would have been YouTube or Facebook, about a professor who got an email from a student asking if they could use data from the late 1900s because they found something that was done in 1996, and how far back can you go, because this seemed relevant. And his comment was, I am never going to recover from this. So I thought, yep. Hit the subscribe button below if you want to follow life hacks beyond convention.